on Denver7 News on Local 3. This is being called the pandemic of the unvaccinated. But what about those who are half vaccinated?
You really don't have any excuse other than you've been at home and you don't want to leave the house.
With the Delta variant spreading quickly, there's no time for apathy.
Time is of the essence. We are seeing the spread of Delta. This is not unique to Colorado.
Plus, insurance companies aren't paying for your coronavirus treatments anymore. And you may want to keep your mask on outside this weekend. But it's not because of COVID.
I thought it was just fog, but then when I found out it was smoke, I was kind of taken back and I was like, okay, this is a little gross.
Good Friday evening, and thank you for watching Denver7 News on Local 3. I'm Jessica Porter. Denver's air quality was among the worst in the world today, but for the worst air quality conditions, we have to look a little to the west. Take a look at this satellite image released by CDPHE of the western U.S. There is a massive layer of smoke over northern Nevada and Utah. Today, Salt Lake City had the worst air quality in the world. This is a time lapse showing the smoke taking over Salt Lake City. And all that smoke, well, it's headed our way. And that's why we've issued a Denver7 Weather Action Day. Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson is tracking the smoking conditions tonight. Mike?
Jessica, let's take a look at the big map across the country. The areas in red and even purple are the worst air quality on the planet, and they're coming our way as the jet stream is going to bring westerly winds across Colorado tomorrow and really sweep that air into our area. So heavy, thick smoke moving into the mountains tonight, especially the mountain valleys where it'll settle early in the morning and then out onto the eastern plains tomorrow. Now by Sunday, the heaviest smoke moves off a little bit to the east of us, but there's more back to the west, so the upshot is we're going to have a whole lot of smoke around for a while. We have poor air quality in all of the areas shaded in gray at the moment. That's kind of the leading edge right there of that smoke that's pushing in. There are some thunderstorms around. We even had a flash flood warning up on the Cameron Peak burn scar area in the last few minutes up in Larimer County. But the main story with this, as these storms move out, the smoke comes in. Our headlines are gusty storms ending tonight, heavy smoke on the way for tomorrow with very poor air quality. People that have asthma, COPD need to be very careful, but even folks that don't have any breathing issues need to avoid strenuous outdoor exercise for tomorrow. Thank you, Mike.
Remember, you can get the latest weather conditions anytime this weekend by downloading Denver7 Plus and selecting our 24/7 weather stream. It may seem like there's nothing we can do to slow our changing climate, but every little bit counts. Megan Lopez shows us how we can all be better air stewards.
Take a deep breath. Well, maybe not that deep of a breath. Not if you're outside anyway, because the reality is our air quality is pretty terrible today. Just how bad? Well, luckily I happen to know an expert.
Our current air quality is bad, but it's going to get much worse tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah, that expert. Amateur juggler, professional meteorologist Mike Nelson, and I've got him on speed dial.
Smoke that is now out to the west of us in Utah has produced the worst air quality in the world today in Salt Lake City, even worse than cities like Beijing. And that air plume is coming our way.
The poor air quality is really on two fronts, the wildfire smoke from the west and the typical summer ozone caused by the heat. But there are ways we can help, like not driving as much.
Just little things like your tire inflation, making sure your car is well tuned, means that it's going to be more efficient.
Even in the summertime, believe it or not, a cold engine emits more pollution than a fully warmed up engine.
I'm sure you've heard this one before, but try not to pump gas during the day. Why?
Because the volatile organic compounds in the gasoline can drift out when you're filling the tank up during the day.
And one more way to be a good air quality citizen: don't do daytime yard work.
Gas-powered lawn landscaping equipment, I would say, is pound for pound probably the most polluting types of engines we have anymore. Those gasoline-powered engines do not really have pollution controls.
Colorado's air quality has been so bad, it's very likely the state will once again be moved down to the severe ozone non-attainment level soon.
And we can't even enjoy our summers because of the air pollution.
That's why people like SABRINA PACHA with Healthy Air and Water Colorado want a statewide solution.
There are individual actions folks can do, but until our state elected leaders solve this with large statewide policy solutions, we're not going to see the reductions in air pollution that we really need to.
Still, there are things we can do to be good stewards of Colorado's air quality, and every little bit helps.
It really is going to take a team effort.
That was Megan Lopez reporting. Doctors say with air quality like this, it's best if you stay inside this weekend, especially if you're in a sensitive group. Doctors recommend people with asthma, for example, limit how much time they spend outside. And that's just as important if you have little ones.
The air quality that we've been living through lately can definitely cause problems, can definitely trigger attacks in asthma, can trigger difficulty breathing in kids that have a tendency towards wheezing when they have a viral illness or an allergy exposure.
It's important to note the difference between symptoms from asthma, for example, and COVID-19. With asthma, you're not going to have a fever or runny nose, nor cold or flu-like symptoms. So if you're experiencing more than a cough or shortness of breath, you might want to talk to your doctor. Breaking within the last hour, the Biden administration has extended the pause on student loan payments through January 31st of next year. Those had been set to expire in October. The Department of Education says this will be the final extension, and the additional time will help avoid delinquency and defaults once payments resume. The pause only applies to federally held loans. Colorado is racing to vaccinate as many people as quickly as possible. Many people got the shot as soon as they could. Others have taken a wait-and-see approach or flat out refused to get it. But what about people who got their first shot and decided that was enough? As Denver7's Eddie Guajardo reports, doctors say it's never too late.
With each passing day, the risk of getting the Delta variant increases.
It's spreading like wildfire.
And it poses a greater threat to people not fully vaccinated.
Time is of the essence.
Across the UC health system, patients battling COVID-19 reached an all-time high in 3 months. 125 people are severely ill.
96% of the individuals hospitalized at this moment are unvaccinated. Of the 4% that are fully vaccinated, most of those are individuals that have underlying immune issues.
So far, more than 70% of Coloradans have received 1 dose of the vaccine. 65% are fully vaccinated. But nearly 152,000 people are overdue for their second shot, and the danger of a partial vaccination is real.
Based on the studies out of the UK, you're only protected about 30-something%.
Now, it's possible some may have received the shot out of state or at a federal agency, which wouldn't be tracked in the state system. But for those who didn't,
it means you have about a 2/3 chance that you're going to end up in the hospital.
Dr. Michelle Barron, the Senior Medical Director of Infection Prevention at UC Health, says you can still get your second dose.
That it's not too late. You can get the shot.
Even if you surpass the grace period between shots.
It doesn't actually matter. So that was set up somewhat to be able to get vaccines in arms as quickly as possible. There's really nothing immunologically that suggests that you have to start the series over.
The state funneled millions of dollars into incentive programs to get shots into arms and help save lives.
If you have full protection from the 2 doses, you are significantly less likely to end up at the hospital, not likely to die from it either.
Dr. Barron admits the initial shot rollout was complicated, but now with nearly 1,600 providers across the state, she says there are no excuses.
Now you don't necessarily have to have appointments. You can just show up.
UC Health will offer additional vaccine clinics this Saturday and next Saturday at 3 locations across Colorado. Eddie Guajardo, Denver7.
The state has tried to make it as simple and beneficial as possible to get vaccinated. Earlier this year, it ran multiple mass vaccination sites. We saw long lines of people ready to get their shot. When vaccine rates slowed, the state offered $100 Walmart gift cards to anyone willing to go under the needle. And don't forget about the lucky few who walked away with $1 million in the state's Colorado Comeback Cash Lottery. A lot has also been done to make being unvaccinated much more difficult. Mayor Michael Hancock made vaccines mandatory for all Denver City employees. Many private businesses have announced their own vaccine requirements as well. And now you could face some big bills if you have to be hospitalized for treatment. Many insurance companies have allowed their policies waiving costs for COVID treatment to lapse. That means if you have to be treated for COVID-19, you're going to have to pay for it. Some hope the fear of a big medical bill will be enough to get those on the fence about vaccines to get the shot. According to medical nonprofit Fair Health, the average cost of a hospital stay for COVID-19 is more than $38,000. That's what hospitals charge insurance companies. You'll likely have to cover a portion of that for your deductible or out-of-pocket maximum. For those without health insurance, the cost is more than $73,000. COVID treatments aren't the only things insurance companies are contemplating eliminating to cut costs right now. United Healthcare had plans to eliminate emergency room coverage for conditions that it does not consider an emergency. But there was major public outcry from members upset that may not know how severe their condition is before being taken to the hospital. In response, the company delayed implementation of that policy. United Healthcare, Cigna, and Aetna are all dropping coverage of biologic drugs to lower costs. Biologic drugs include anything derived from humans, animals, or microorganisms, and they're some of the most expensive drug treatments on the market. Cigna is so desperate to get patients off those drugs that it's paying $500 to anyone who chooses to use a much less expensive biosimilar drug. Now we want to hear from you. What should we expect to be covered by our health insurance? And should companies be able to drop coverage of a treatment just because it's expensive? Send us an email to 360@thedenverchannel.com.
Coming up, a recipe for disaster.
I followed directions, did everything the same, and that was it.
Basically, they were working with a time bomb.
A Denver woman severely burned by her pressure cooker wants someone to pay.
That made me mad. The company's not doing anything about it.